Pizza is one of those foods that feels immortal. It's cheap, it's comforting, and it's everywhere. Or at least, it used to be. But beneath the grease-stained cardboard and nostalgia, something strange has been happening. Pizza isn't disappearing overnight, it's fading. And the reasons why tell us a lot about how America eats now. That's why today we're taking a look at the slow, sad death of pizza. But before we dig into how the world's most reliable food started losing its grip, make sure you're subscribed to the Weird History Food channel. After that, leave a comment and let us know what other suddenly unfashionable foods you would like to hear about. And now, that fresh hot slice of Weird History food you ordered. Pizza's origin story is messy, disputed, and aggressively ancient, which is exactly what you'd expect from a food that's essentially bread plus toppings. Long before anyone argued about crust thickness on the internet, people across the ancient world were already baking flatbreads and piling things on top of them.
Here you go. Prehistoric pizza.
As early as the 6th century BCE, Persian soldiers are said to have baked flatbreads on their shields, topping them with cheese and dates for a quick, portable meal. In ancient Greece, citizens ate a flatbread called plakos, flavored with herbs, onion, garlic, and cheese. Less pizza night and more proto-focaccia, but unmistakably part of the same lineage. Roman cuisine pushed the idea further with breads like adoria or libum adorium, topped with spreads such as moritum, a cheese mixture blended with herbs and garlic, and sometimes fruit.
Pineapple and olive? Sweet and salty.
A wall painting discovered at Pompeii appears to show a flatbread topped with ingredients arranged in a way that feels uncannily familiar today. Literature backs it up. In Virgil's Aeneid, Trojan refugees eat their bread plates, along with the food piled on top, fulfilling a prophecy that they would reach their destined land once hunger forced them to eat their tables. It's not pizza in the modern sense, but it underscores how long bread has served as both base and vessel in Mediterranean eating cultures. By the late medieval period, topped flatbreads were common across the Mediterranean. In Naples, some were explicitly called pizza, cheap street food for working people. It wasn't aspirational, it was practical, and that practicality would become pizza's greatest strength, and eventually part of its problem. For most of its early life, pizza didn't look the way we imagine it today. There was no red sauce. Tomatoes, native to the Americas, didn't arrive in Europe until after Spanish colonization. And even once they did, Europeans were deeply suspicious of them. And we're not even talking about those killer tomatoes, just the regular kind.
This is the incredible story of the world's ultimate disaster. Vicious man-eating tomatoes grow to monstrous proportions.
Anyway, for years, tomatoes were treated as ornamental plants or curiosities rather than food. It wasn't until tomatoes made their way into the Kingdom of Naples and Sicily, then under Spanish rule, that pizza's future really locked in. Tomatoes, native to the Americas, arrived in Europe late and with a trust problem. For years, people weren't even sure they were safe to eat. Some accounts credit Spanish viceroys in the 16th century. Others point to seeds arriving via Peru in the 18th. Either way, once tomatoes entered Neapolitan kitchens, everything changed. Cheap, flavorful, and easy to grow, tomatoes were a perfect fit for a city that knew how to stretch a meal. They paired effortlessly with flatbread, adding moisture, acidity, and color to what had previously been a fairly beige situation. By the early 18th century, tomato-topped pizzas were being sold on the streets of Naples, including the marinara, documented in 1734, and topped simply with tomato, garlic, oregano, and olive oil. Then came the myth-making moment. In 1796, the pizza margherita is said to have been created in honor of Queen Margherita of Savoy. Whether the story is perfectly true or lovingly embellished, the effect was undeniable. Pizza crossed a social boundary. Street food became something fit for royalty. That transition matters because it set pizza on a path toward mass appeal without ever demanding reinvention. Pizza arrived in the United States alongside Italian immigrants in the late 19th century, settling first in dense urban neighborhoods where community and familiarity mattered. Early American pizzas looked much like their Neapolitan ancestors and were largely eaten by Italian communities themselves. One of the earliest landmarks is Lombardi's, which began selling pizza in New York City in 1897 and later received one of the city's first pizzeria licenses. For decades, though, pizza remained niche. Outside of Italian neighborhoods, most Americans either didn't know or didn't care. That changed, slowly at first, then all at once. After World War II, American soldiers returned home with a taste for pizza they'd picked up overseas. At the same time, American cities were expanding, suburbs were growing, and people were looking for food that was fast, filling, and communal. Pizza fit perfectly. In 1943, Pizzeria Uno opened in Chicago, helping popularize deep dish pizza and further regionalizing the food. By the 1950s, pizza was appearing in mainstream pop culture, including famously on I Love Lucy, signaling that it had crossed from ethnic specialty to national obsession. The 1970s sealed the deal. Neighborhood pizzerias became fixtures in cities and suburbs alike. Then came the chains: Pizza Hut, Domino's, Little Caesars, Papa John's. Regional brands followed, each adapting pizza to local tastes and business models. Pizza became standardized, systematized, and optimized for delivery. It was one of the first foods to truly master the logistics of American convenience. By the late 20th century, pizza wasn't just popular, it was foundational. It felt permanent.
Pizza, great equalizer. Rich people love pizza, poor people love pizza, white people love pizza, black people love pizza.
Which is why it's easy to miss the signs that, quietly, the conditions that once made pizza dominant have started to erode. Pizza has always lived in a strange nutritional gray zone. It's bread, cheese, sauce, and sometimes vegetables, which sounds suspiciously like a meal. But it's also salty, calorie-dense, and extremely easy to overeat. Whether pizza counts as junk food often depends less on the ingredients and more on the portion, the context, and how honest you're being with yourself.
Guys, we gonna want another pizza. Who's hungry? Show of hands. Let me see them. 1, 2, 3, keep them up.
On paper, pizza isn't inherently worse than a lot of fast food. A single piece of a standard 14-inch cheese pizza from a restaurant chain contains around 285 calories, about 36 grams of carbohydrates, and roughly 640 milligrams of sodium. Add pepperoni, America's favorite topping, and that jumps to around 313 calories and 760 milligrams of sodium per slice. To put that sodium number in perspective, dietary guidelines recommend adults consume no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. One slice of pizza can easily account for a third of that total, and nobody eats just one slice. That's where pizza's reputation starts to slide. The food itself isn't automatically terrible, but pizza is designed to be eaten socially and repeatedly. The combination of refined carbs, fat, and salt makes it easy to keep going long after you're full. Over time, that's helped cement pizza's place in the cultural imagination as indulgent, lazy food. Even as healthier toppings, thinner crusts, and alternative bases try to soften the image.
What the heck is
Who
that?
puts broccoli on pizza? That's it. I'm done.
Congratulations, San Francisco. You've ruined pizza. First the Hawaiians, and now you.
For decades, that reputation didn't really matter. Pizza didn't need to be healthy. It needed to be affordable, filling, and reliable. But as eating habits shifted, especially among younger consumers, pizza's nutritional ambiguity stopped being a strength and started becoming another pressure point. Here's the confusing part. Pizza isn't gone. In fact, it's still one of the most consumed foods in America. Pizza chains generated roughly $31 billion in sales in 2024, and on any given day, about 1 in 10 Americans eats a slice. Pizza remains especially popular among younger people, who grow up with it as a default food rather than a novelty. If you stopped the analysis there, the idea of the death of pizza would sound absurd. But zoom out, and the trend line tells a different story. Compared to other cuisines, pizza has been quietly slipping for years. Among restaurant chains in the United States, pizza ranked 6th in total sales in 2024, down from 2nd place in the 1990s. The number of pizza restaurants peaked in 2019 and has declined steadily since. Once the second most common type of restaurant in the country, pizzerias are now outnumbered by both coffee shops and Mexican food eateries. Sales growth at pizza restaurants has lagged behind the broader fast food market for years, and the the outlook has not improved. Even large chains are wobbling. In recent years, multiple pizza brands have filed for bankruptcy protection, including Pieology Pizzeria, Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza and Wings, and Bertucci's Brick Oven Pizza and Pasta. California Pizza Kitchen, once positioned as an upscale reinvention of the category, was sold at a steep discount compared to its earlier valuations. And other major players have quietly closed locations or explored strategic exits. At Pizza Hut, U.S. same-store sales at locations open at least a year have declined for 8 consecutive quarters. The chain still operates hundreds of dine-in restaurants, which occupy larger footprints, cost more to operate, and serve a shrinking portion of how Americans actually eat pizza. Other major chains, including Papa John's and the parent company of Papa Murphy's, have explored potential sales or restructuring, while mid-sized brands like Blaze Pizza and Mod Pizza have spent the last 2 years closing locations in an effort to stabilize. None of this looks like a sudden collapse. It looks like an erosion. So, what happened? For most of its American life, pizza thrived because it solved multiple problems at once. Outside of major cities, pizza was once a novelty, something new, vaguely exotic, and exciting. That left enormous room for growth, both for small independent shops and national chains. Every new suburb, every new strip mall, every new college town felt like an opportunity. Pizza also dominated delivery. Before food delivery apps, ordering pizza was often the easiest, sometimes the only, reliable way to get hot food brought directly to your door. Pizza kitchens were built for it. The boxes stacked well. The food traveled well, or well enough. The business model assumed you'd eat at home, not in the restaurant. And crucially, pizza was cheap. Not just inexpensive compared to restaurants, but positioned as a value food. A single order could feed multiple people. You didn't need sides. You didn't need customization. Pizza night meant everyone got what they needed with minimal effort. Those advantages made pizza feel unbeatable. But they were also dependent on a very specific food ecosystem, one that no longer exists. The biggest shift didn't come from pizza itself. It came from everything around it. Food delivery apps exploded the old delivery monopoly. Suddenly, pizza wasn't competing with itself, it was competing with burgers, tacos, bowls, wings, fried chicken, sushi, and whatever ghost kitchen happened to be trending that month. Convenience stopped being pizza's exclusive advantage. At the same time, pizza got more expensive. Ingredient costs rose. Labor costs rose. Rent rose. Over time, those increases got passed along to customers. For years after the pandemic-era price shocks began, low-income consumers, historically a huge portion of pizza's customer base, started pulling back. In the first quarter of 2025, same-store sales were down at all 3 major pizza chains. 5% at Pizza Hut, 2.7% at Papa John's, and 0.5% at Domino's. The value proposition cracked. The average price of a large pizza at the top 5 chains climbed to about $18.14, and the overall check size increased nearly 30% since 2019, slightly higher than the increases seen at burger and chicken chains. For price-sensitive consumers, pizza no longer felt like the obvious choice. Frozen pizza, fast food deals, and home-cooked meals often looked like better options. At the same time, eating habits shifted. Health-conscious consumers didn't abandon pizza entirely, but they stopped defaulting to it. Lighter meals, customizable bowls, protein-forward fast casual chains, and perceived cleaner foods chipped away at pizza's cultural dominance. Pizza went from being an anytime food to something people actively decided to have, which is never a great position for a former staple. Competition within the pizza category also intensified. When growth slows, chains turn inward, fighting each other for smaller slices of the same pie. Discounts become more aggressive. Margins shrink. Independent shops struggle to keep up with marketing, technology, and delivery infrastructure. The market doesn't collapse, it cannibalizes itself. So, is pizza actually dying? Not exactly. Pizza is not disappearing. It's stabilizing, and that's the real shock. For decades, pizza expanded without resistance. It grew because it could. Now it has to justify itself. It has to compete on price, health, experience, and convenience in a landscape crowded with alternatives that didn't exist 20 years ago. The future of pizza likely looks smaller.
Hydrate level 4, please.
Cheap, hyper-efficient delivery chains will keep chasing value-conscious customers. High-end artisanal pizzerias will serve as destination experiences. What's disappearing is the middle, the assumption that pizza automatically wins by default. Pizza isn't dead quite yet, but it's no longer immortal. And for a food that once defined American convenience, that might be the biggest change of all. So what do you think? Is pizza still a go-to, or has it slipped into backup plan territory? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History Food.